Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the YouTube citizens from different time zones. Welcome to the session Rise with Google Cloud. I'm Eva, managing the MSP partner operations in India. We have given careful thoughts before coming up with a theme for this year. Most of you might have already been following the news of the recent opening of Google data center in Delhi region, India. Now, this opens up a huge opportunity not just to accelerate business expansion, but also for people to step up in their cloud game, which in turn opens up huge career opportunities. Hence the theme Rise with Google Cloud. So let's all rise to ignite, rise to innovate, and rise to inspire. Okay, sounds nice, great theme, but how? Given the information overload these days and rapidly changing business requirements, we have decided to bring this amazing one power packed session for you. Now, what's so special about this session? Speaking of career, we have three major pillars: the preparation phase, the interview phase, and then the performance phase. Each and every phase has its own life cycle process and paths. So, if you're going through any one of these phases, we feel you it's not easy. Sometimes it's like drinking from the fire hose. Hence, we have decided to bring three dimensions together in this one session, which is GCP certification, hiring, and key business functions in Google India. We will start with a fireside chat, then move on to a panel discussion with leaders of key business functions in India and what they look for when hiring people. That's the most important point here. So, my suggestion, please stay tuned with us for the next complete 1 hour. Make notes, it's never out of fashion. So, let's start with a fireside chat. If you're wondering what is a fireside chat, Franklin Roosevelt, one of the old American presidents, came up with this concept of addressing people's concern via radio. And that's what we are going to do today via YouTube, gathering concerns and questions from you all people and crafted every minute of the session. So without further delay, I'm going to hand over this to Darshini and Shanti. Darshini is our head of customer training. And let's also welcome Shanti, who is the people partner. Over to you, Darshini and Shanti. The stage is yours. I'll go backstage.
Thank you so much, Eva.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eva and Darshini. It's so nice to be meeting you again. And welcome to everybody who's tuning in. I have the pleasure of introducing Darshini, and then we will get on to a little more informal conversation. Darshini heads customer training function for Japan and Asia Pacific for Google. And she has spent over 15 years enabling and developing individuals, teams, and organizations to achieve growth in digital technology space. Darshini is especially passionate about equity and inclusion at workplace and beyond. And if you don't find her doing her work, she's with her 2 kids and dogs, and or learning something new, or just running, swimming, and diving. So great to invite you, Darshini, and introduce you.
Thank you so much, Shanti. I do have to say it's been about 2 years since I think I last went diving, considering the global pandemic. But thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I now have the incredible pleasure to introduce Shanti to everyone here today. Shanti is our head for Google Cloud HR in India. She's been with Google just 10 months, but I can tell you that from even the brief conversations we've had, it definitely feels like she's been here a long time. She's had an opportunity to be part of this fast-growing business at Google Cloud in India, and she's spent actually, prior to this, nearly 2 decades in HR. But in her own words, she claims that this has to be the most exciting period of her career. So we're thrilled to have you here, Shanti. Fun fact, and something very close to both our hearts, I think, is that Shanti, while she loves sport, she actually used to play hockey at the national level while in school, and is still taking time to process and recover from the Olympic exploits. We chatted about this earlier, and I think we both agreed we were incredibly proud of the efforts that the girls put in. Sports brings Shanti joy, and Shanti's had the good fortune of actually being able to participate as well, not just be a viewer. So Excellent. Thank you so much, Eva, for organizing this, and for all our viewers to have tuned in today. I think what Shanti and I will do is we'll explore a few key areas around skilling and what it means from a cloud perspective. And then we will hand back over to Evangeline at the end of this to bring on board some of our Google department leads to talk to you about what that looks like in action. So back to you, Shanti.
Thanks, Darshini. Thank you so much. As you rightly said, I still get goosebumps thinking about the Olympic exploits. So now let's talk about what you do and why this is important for us.
Absolutely. Training is critical for anyone at any point in time, whether at work or whether it's you choosing to do learning outside of work. Now, I lead our customer training function specifically for JPAC. And what that means is that we're constantly working with our teams and our customers' teams to ensure that they have the skills they need in order to embark on this cloud journey. Sounds very simple when I put it that way, but it is incredibly complex. Transformation is typically hard. Transformation brings with it chaos. And skills are one way in which we can continue to build a bit of stability and predictability to how people then adapt in that chaos. So me and my team both operate heavily with our customers in making sure that they feel good about the people in their organizations as well, and that they are trained well enough to actually be able to carry this weight of transformation on their shoulders. The reason this is important is the skill doesn't exist today. I think back to when I graduated, this was definitely not something I would have said I'd be working on in the future, right? I think back to even 5 years ago, the shape and form of this technical landscape has evolved so quickly that if we're not constantly leading the change on our front foot, we'll find ourselves falling behind very, very quickly. So that's why I would say it's important, Shanti.
It's fascinating you talked about skill gaps, and we wouldn't imagine in today's world that skill gap is real. Can you talk a little more about that, Darshini, and what you see in the workforce today and in the world today?
Absolutely, Shanti. You're right. Like, it's hard to imagine that a gap even exists, especially in an era where we have access to so much information all the time, right? We're on a YouTube platform right now. You could literally gain access to any bit of information right here. But here's the real issue. Skill gaps are actually quite stable, but it remains a problem in being stable. Now, over 75% of IT decision makers are dealing with skill gaps today. That is 3 out of 4 people on a team, if you think about it. It's significant. The loss in productivity due to these skill gaps is actually so significant. All right, I'm going to drop a number here. It can equal 520 hours worth of work and about 29,000 USD per employee. So from an IT decision maker's perspective, this is a huge, deep, and wide gap.
That's truly incredible. That's truly incredible. And this is something that we keep grappling as HR folks, and I see hiring managers keep talking about that.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you about that, Shanti. Given what I've just shared, and given your own personal experience, over your 2 decades as well as the last 10 months, is this something that you're seeing resonate with Googlers, with hiring managers, with just business stakeholders you're engaging with?
No, absolutely, Darshini. I keep hearing about this so much. We are growing incredibly fast. And, that's what, as I said, brought me to Google Cloud. And we are growing incredibly fast in India. We doubled our headcount last year. We will continue to double the next couple of years. And the skill gap is real. When we are looking to see how we can get the best talent, it is incredibly hard to find the right people. I want to pivot a little bit about the hiring process itself. Because apart from just saying, yes, we're looking for all these great people with certifications and, people who know what it needs to succeed in Google or in the marketplace, leave alone Google. I think at Google, our hiring process is very structured. We want to remove any kind of bias that might creep into the process at any point in time. We ensure that hiring managers are trained adequately before they can get through the process. Like you said, we definitely look for people with the right knowledge, the right skills, but hiring goes beyond just that. For instance, we are not looking at ad applications. We look at each candidate as individuals, which means Dashini might be applying for a particular role, but we think she will fit in something else. We are open-minded to go and look at her for something else, even though she may not have applied. So that's the amount of effort that we put in to bring in the right candidates into Google. And therefore, things like what you said today is so important that people who are watching this event know that they have equal chance to get into a company like Google or our partners if they equip themselves well. And I just want to share something, right? We think of Google and say, hey, we only go to elite schools, we only go and hire people from there. It is passé. We try and get people from all walks of life today. We make outreaches. We've been making 3x the outreach we have done in the past. We connect through people to YouTube live events like this one, to be able to reach out to people and demystify the Google hiring process. So everybody that they think can be successful here is welcome.
I love that, Shanti, and thank you so much for bringing that up, because I think that ultimately a learning mindset, right? The ability to say, I want to keep myself skilled and I want to make sure I am up to date on my certifications and that I'm highly employable, can come from anywhere. It does not necessarily come from a certain set of schools or from a certain background. If anything, I think that that kind of mindset is really what allows us to also bring that diversity into our workforce further down the road.
Absolutely. So Dashini, and that brings me nicely to the next question. I've always wondered, somebody who's been in this profession of training people, upskilling people, what is your, if you were to give one or two life hacks, how do you stay relevant? How do you help people stay relevant? Your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. And this is one of my favorite topics, just personally, but also because, well, this is my job. And to me, it comes down to two words, and that's learning culture. So what is your learning culture, or what is your learning ethos, right? As an individual, ultimately, we are each responsible for keeping ourselves up to date on our skills and ensuring that we're doing the best by our own potential. Now, that's not going to happen if you go attain a great degree and then never refresh your skills, because I can tell you the degree that I did is not relevant today anymore. It could not be more relevant. I mean, foundationally, sure, it's relevant, but from a skills perspective, if I hadn't actually invested the time in going and learning, taking opportunities that come my way, but also creating those opportunities for myself, I think I would be at a significant loss, or I would find myself in a role that's still rather traditional. Now, why is that important? That those rather traditional roles are diminishing quickly today, even more so because of the global pandemic than they have in the past. So the rate at which these roles are vanishing and people are required to stay up to date in order to be relevant for employability is much, much faster than we've ever experienced in the past. I do want to call out specifically here, though, for our viewers, because I think this is important. What can you do to stay relevant? What we've found study upon study is this. Both cloud as well as cybersecurity certifications are topping. They're hugely in demand, right? Cloud computing and cybersecurity certifications that are associated with they tend to be associated with the highest IT salaries around the world consistently, and
Wow.
specifically so in our region as well. Now, your credentials from Google Cloud and AWS, ISACA, these are typically your top paying. In fact, Google Cloud has just 3 years in a row now come up as the top certification. And I can talk about that a little bit later, but staying certified is actually so key to your success here. So create an ongoing learning culture, and then have a way in which you're demonstrating your abilities and your skills that you've acquired through your learning through a formal certification. So these are the two things I would say are absolutely critical for every single viewer listening to us today.
So, you might have answered this a little bit, but like you said, there are so many certifications out in the market, Darshini. And you speak about cloud certification being most important. do you know why? Why would you advocate a Google Cloud certification? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. And I'll start with this. Google Cloud is relatively new, right? In its current shape and form, the supply of talent at large, I'm not talking about specifically to Google, I'm talking about the supply of talent in the marketplace, who are actually qualified, is low, which means when the demand is high and the supply is low, people are willing to pay
That's true.
to achieve that talent, right? So there is a tremendous amount of demand from our customers who are looking to either reskill their own teams or hire, or both. And more often than not, we see the combination of both. So I would say, I think the reason this exists is because we're growing fast. You talked about how quickly Google Cloud is growing from the inside. So that should hopefully give everyone a sense of what that means for our business. And then attach that to the fact that, well, the skills gap continues to remain pretty stable, and that's actually an opportunity for everyone here. And then all you got to do is start going and getting yourself trained and getting yourself certified, and you'll suddenly be able to meet that demand in the market. I want to specifically talk about our cloud certified professional cloud architect certification at this point. Now, this certification debuted in 2017, and it's been making the top of the list year after year, in terms of accreditation. Now, the discipline itself allows IT pros to certify as architects on GCP, on the Google Cloud Platform, and completing this certification, actually ensures you'll have the capacity to design, develop, and manage resources residing on Google Cloud's architecture using GCP technologies. So if I were to prioritize for the audience and say, look, in terms of thinking about where you want to build your skills, think about cloud, think about cybersecurity. But if you're thinking about cloud, a great starting point, a very stable starting point for you could be the actual professional cloud architect certification.
That's so relevant, because when I'm speaking to students, sometimes I get these questions so many times. And therefore, if there are students in the audience, you've heard it from the expert on what to focus on, why Google Cloud certification, and what specifically you should be doing. That's fascinating, Darshini.
Absolutely, Shanti. It is. And I can tell you, even being in the business, I continue to be amazed at just the potential that this provides. You talk to students, so I'm going to double click on that for a second. I think for many of our viewers, this will be something top of mind. Okay, we've talked about cloud skills, we've talked about tangible skills and demonstrating capability, right? So training and certification right there. But tell me, Shanti, in your experience, like apart from skills, what does an individual really need to set themselves up to succeed in this cloud-first world? Tell us from a HR perspective, tell us what you're observing, and give us your best practices, please.
So this is always close to my heart. And, I can talk as an HR professional. I can talk as myself, somebody who interviewed with Google 10 months ago, right? I think there are, apart from the role-related knowledge that you spoke about, the certification, that's going to help you, talk about how well equipped you are for the role that's on that we are hiring for. But apart from that, Google also hires for, what we call as Googliness. We also hire for what we look for in every individual, however junior or senior in leadership. When I say Googliness, it's about thriving in a fast-paced environment, in a very ambiguous environment. And you talked about cloud-first world. Cloud is such a high, fast-paced environment. And somebody who can succeed will need that scrappiness, will need that ability to work through in ambiguity, and more than anything else, be able to collaborate and work as a team, right? The second thing on leadership, somebody who's able to handle things with less hand-holding will be somebody who will succeed, able to find their way themselves. And as I said before, Darshini, our hiring process is very objective. So it's not going to be random, subjective assessment of how we look at it. We have rubrics which defines at what level how you define all of this. Very, very scientific hiring process built over many times. What I would tell audiences that are listening is there's a lot of YouTube videos out there. I myself used them before coming here. And you can go and see what Googliness means. There are mock questions. Never underestimate preparation. You need to prepare. The last tip that I would give, it can be overwhelming and sometimes unnerving as you're getting prepared to interview with Google or any other company, your dream company, right? And what I always tell people is be yourself, because everybody else is taken. So you just need to be yourself, enjoy the process, and do your best.
Absolutely love that one, Shanti. I think just being your authentic self and enjoying yourself in that interview process is so critical. I will +3 to that. The reason I'm saying +3 is I've actually been at Google 3 times in my career. So I've officially interviewed to come into Google 3 times in my career. And succeeded, clearly. There have been more failures too, but we'll talk about that another day. I think in these successes, I can tell you it's that if I didn't have fun and I just didn't feel like myself in the interview, I knew it wasn't going to go well. So it's so important to just be authentic, do the work, build the foundation, have the skills, prep, and then just go have a great conversation with your hiring manager, with your interview panel, with your recruiters. It's so important for everybody to see who you are and what you bring as yourself to the conversation.
Absolutely, Darshini. So I'm going to come to the most important question. We spoke so much about hiring. You spoke so much about certification, etc. Why now? What is the urgency that you see today?
Yeah, I mean, and this is going to sound a little obvious, but I think we do need to say it. It's in this pandemic-rid world where we're dealing with change on a regular basis, just know that companies have been forced into actually evolving. And in doing so, have found the skills gap to be that much more acute within their organizations. So this is our chance to actually come forward in our best version of ourselves and say, look, we're here to support that transformation. And we're here to actually evolve how we do things for good, right? Because clearly it's been, a year and a half and counting at this point, varies depending on where you are, but it's been an intense year and a half. And businesses have felt that too. Skills gaps continue to grow deeper and wider in this time. So it's important we skill ourselves now, and you get yourself in a position where you're able to impact that change for good in the future. So I guess I also want to add to that and say that, look, I know we've talked about this from the perspective of just cloud skills, from Google's perspective as well. Just know that anyone who's operating on the cloud platform is experiencing this. So this is an opportunity for anyone else looking to get on to that cloud platform. Know that you'll have tremendous value in the marketplace, and you'll be highly employable by Google's partners, Google's customers that are all supporting this world on this transformation. So I'd say that's why the urgency, and that's why it's important now more than ever before. It's been such a pleasure, Shanti, to have talked to you about this. I've really enjoyed our 20 or so minutes conversation, digging deep into this. I'm sure our viewers are now getting anxious to hear from actual department heads what it's like and what it means to actually land a role and what the roles look like. So why don't I now hand back over to Eva, who will take you into the next section.
Thank you, Darshini and Shanti. Wow, that's a lot of information. You know what? I'm also taking notes. It's never out of fashion. So I have two key takeaways, each from Darshini and Shanti. Darshini spoke about leading the change. How true. If we see the last 1 decade of compute power, we started with on premise virtualization, then cloud infra, Kubernetes, and we are in the serverless era now. Changes never change. And Dashni clearly said that leaders need to lead the change. And that's what Google believes as well. That is leading in tech intensity, which is Googliness. Shanti had demystified one of our thoughts that we have always had. Does Google hire only from top B schools and tech schools? And we got the answer. that Google looks for talent and not just a degree. I hope this has cleared a lot of long term questions in your mind. She clearly double clicked on the word preparation. There is no shortcut for success. So, to be honest, I'm going to rewatch this video, and we all have a weekend to think about the learning plan. So, now type in the comment section what is going to be your next Google certification, and stay tuned with us for the panel discussion in the next few seconds or minutes, where I have gathered few leaders from various business functions of Google India. It's going to be a very interesting because I'm going to ask them some super hot questions like what roles do you have in your org? How can the citizens of tech prepare themselves for those roles? So give me a few seconds, they will be here, and see you soon. Hello, all. Welcome again for part two of the session. We had a great fireside chat with Darshini and Shanti. Now, with the same enthusiasm and thirst for knowledge, let's welcome our leaders from the key business functions of India. Let's welcome Seema, who's the customer engineering manager. She will walk us through the different roles in her org, like the partner engineer, customer engineer, and at least that's what I know. So let's hear more from her. We have Pratish, who is the consulting lead of PSO, which is the professional services organization, wherein we have technical account managers, the cloud consultants, and cloud program managers in the org. Hi, Pratish. We have another interesting person who brings the knowledge diversity to today's table. He is Ruchir, who leads the field sales team. Hi, Ruchir. I'm sure he's going to add interesting sales flavor to the discussion. And I can't wait to hear interesting sales roles in the cloud as well. So there we go. We have a great mix of the tech and sales leaders in the hot seat. The previous session was a fireside chat. And if you're wondering what is this session all about, I'm going to interview these hiring managers. When I say this, it sounds a bit unusual for me, but we have been getting these questions from all of you via social media, sourcing specialists, recruiters, that how can I be a part of Google and serve the IT citizens better? What are the roles? What are the job descriptions for those roles? What is my preparation path? Are certifications mandatory? These are all the questions that we often get. We hear you. On behalf of all of you, I'm going to ask these questions to these leaders today. All three of them have agreed to give their gracious presence today and help you demystify some points. Ruchir, Seema, and Pratish, thanks a lot for your time in doing this. So let's start with business function introduction first. So the first question is for Seema. Would you please walk us through your business function, please?
Absolutely, and thanks for having me on the show, Eva. Our business function is called Cloud Customer Engineering. We play a really important role in driving customer value by bringing the best of whatever Google Cloud has to offer to our customers. So we have specialized technical expertise that enables us to develop these working prototypes of solutions so that customers can really see how the solutions that we're proposing can come to life and not just remain as paperware. So this unlocks tremendous growth opportunities for them and gives them a sense of how these solutions can help overcome their business challenges. And once these prototypes are developed and the technical feasibility of a solution is established, we work a lot with our PSO organization and our partner networks to really be able to scale these solutions. So we play an important role in being the voice of GCP to our customers and then the voice of our customers back to our product teams. So that's the critical role that our function plays. There are three key parts to our business functions. There's customer engineering, which is all about how we engage with customers, understand the challenges, build out some solutions for them, and so on. Then there is partner engineering, which really looks at how we really grow our partner network, how we nurture that partner network, and how we leverage them in the right kind of opportunities. Finally, there is the industry solutions. So this is the function that combines technical vision with business insight, which is very domain specific. And they collaborate closely with value engineering, which makes sure that the technical solutions that we bring to our customers actually translate to tangible business value. So that's what our function is all about.
That's interesting. So I do have a lot of questions for you and Pratish together then. So let's introduce Pratish as well. So Pratish, over to you. We would like to know about your business function because Seema just mentioned that she works very closely with your organization.
Oh, thanks, Ivan. Thanks, Seema. That's a great start. I'm part of PSO. I lead the consulting, which is one part of the PSO function. In PSO, we have mainly two focus areas: consulting and technical account management. Consulting focused mainly on working very closely with our customer engineering team, our sales team, and obviously with the customer to make sure that we solve the big customer challenges and get the maximum value out of Google Cloud investment from customer. We accelerate customers' cloud journey. We make sure that we create a cloud culture within customer environment. We also make sure that we unlock next generation technologies. If you think any large cloud migrations in India, our team will be involved. It can be a migration of petabyte worth of data, large migration with 100,000 plus requests per seconds, building such kind of platforms, etc. The team does all. And our team is specialized in the area of data, infrastructure, security, and machine learning, etc. So that's how the consulting teams are managed. And technical account management, it's a key function within professional services. Technical account managers work very closely with customer and our internal stakeholders to make sure that we build a very long-term roadmap for our customers in terms of architectural stability, in terms of platform health and operational rigor for our customer environment. We do have multiple roles like cloud consultant, strategic cloud engineers, cloud program managers, and technical account managers within these functions.
That's great. So your team works very closely with Seema's team as well as with Richard's team, which is sales. That's interesting. That is reminding me that I actually brought the right set of leaders into this virtual stage. So Suchir, I'm sure you do have some interesting points for us about cloud sales and how you collaborate with Seema and Pratish. So over to you for the business function introduction.
So thank you so much, Eva, Pratish, and Seema. You heard both of them talk about some great things that our sales consulting organization, the PSO, the CE teams do. A lot of this, right, begins with the function that I present, that is the sales function. We are usually the first port of call or the first face in front of our clients, the enterprise clients are there, right? While the outcome is sales, right, for a sales organization, the function is essentially responsible for the end-to-end relationship with our customers from the word go, right? It means understanding what are their challenges, their aspirations, right? And being able to translate that and connect the dots with the various solutions and technologies that we may have, and also leverage and work very closely with, Seema, Pratish, and the entire ecosystem, right? And ensure that we deliver on the outcomes that would help our customers.
That's great. I really like the definition of sales that you have given, which means relationships in understanding customers' challenge and partners' challenges. That's really nice. So we have a fair idea about the business function from all these three leaders. So let's move on to the next round of questions, wherein I'm interested to hear a lot of different roles and what is the job description of those roles in their organization. So I'm going to shoot my first question to Seema. So Seema, we got a fair idea about both customer engineering as well as the partner engineering. Could you give me more details about the roles in your organization?
Absolutely. So I talked about the three parts there are to organization. There's the customer engineers, the partner engineers, and then the industry principal architects. So I'll talk a little bit about what they do and what skills would be required for each of those roles. So the customer engineer is really the person who brings in the technical chops, which would nicely complement the field sales folks that Richard heads. So they are the people who work with the sales team to go to the customer, understand what the business challenge is, come back to the drawing board and think through what kind of technical solution, what kind of architecture might really help address the business challenge. Then they also use their technical skills to be able to develop something that we can then take to the customer to show how that solution really comes to life and how it could work for them. So this is really, as you can see, a role that banks heavily on the technical skills that people bring to the table, be it in terms of their database skills, or they could be analytical skills, or it could be the AI ML skills, or application modernization as the area may be. And then it also requires the business savviness and the ability to face customers and talk to them. So it's really a role that brings deep tech experience together with all of these consultative or pre-sales abilities. And a background in both of these would be super valuable to the role. Then there are the partner engineers, where it's really about collaborating beyond organizational boundaries, right? So how do I really network with partners that I have in the ecosystem and influence them to be able to develop the kind of technical skills that are required for us to bring the best solutions to our customers at scale. So that's the partner engineering role. And finally, the industry principal architects are the people who are deep domain experts in their respective industries. And they would also need to have knowledge of technical architecture, because they come in by influencing the CXOs, talking to the CXOs, shaping the solutions with them in a co-creative manner. And then they should be able to marry it with the technical architecture to say, now let me work with the CE teams and bring this to life. So that's really a role that banks more on the industry and the architectural expertise.
That's great. So this reminds me of a leader who said that there is nothing called non-technical. The bridge between the tech and the non-tech is actually coming close. And I really like the way you explained about the business savviness. When we understand tech, and I think Google is doing a great job in understanding the partner ecosystem as we establish our presence via our new data center in India. And it's the right time, and we have the right strategy to get in touch with partners to help them empower and support their customers. That's really great. And the industry principal architect is definitely an interesting role. So Pratish, now following this, we are interested to hear the roles in your PSO function and how these three roles of CE, PE, and industry architects will work with your team.
Sure, Eva. As I mentioned earlier, we have consulting and technical account management functions. So consulting, we have strategic cloud engineer, cloud consultant, and cloud program manager, three roles mainly. And then technical account management function, we have technical account manager. All roles are customer facing, all work very closely with partners and customers directly. And we also work internally with our sales function and sales engineering function, which Seema explained earlier. All the roles are very deep in technical in nature, and strategic cloud engineers and cloud consultants are hands-on in terms of our technical aspect. And we can very well relate to Seema's point about convincing the customer and building a value proposition for the customer. We take it forward and actually do it in reality within customer. We deploy that in production. That's our primary responsibility. So all hands-on in that sense. be it migration from different platforms, or building data lakes or data warehousing platforms, or application modernization, or building AML models, etc. All flavors will come into each and every roles. And the strategic cloud engineer role is engineering in nature. It's deep engineering, so the people will be able to work side by side with customer and the partners to build uh, uh, build platforms or migrate, etc. And cloud consultants generally manage the program overall from architecture standpoint, and overall stability and program management standpoint. Now, the third role which I mentioned is cloud program manager. For a large and complex programs, we will have a dedicated program managers managing that end to end and leading their PMO function of that project. So these are the three roles in consulting. A technical account management, like I mentioned, or long-term association with customer. They work very closely and build that roadmap. The same time, work internally with our support organization and make sure that customers are getting the complete value by architectural stability, operational rigor, and things like that. And one thing worth mentioning that we also interface with our internal engineering and product teams and make sure that we become the interface for product inputs and enhancements, and bringing engineering teams in front of the customer in case needed to provide engineering assistance to the customers.
That's great. That's a very good continuum of all the four roles. And all I can see is your whole org itself is very empathetic towards customers, right? That's
Exactly.
right. That's really great. And yeah, so the next question is for Richard. We are very eager to hear about the sales roles from the business perspective of cloud sales and how your team works very closely with Seema and Pratish team.
Sure. So Eva, we are fairly flat in our structure, where everyone is a frontline sales representative managing the relationships. There are a few specialist roles that are also there in the country, which are specific to certain industry solutions, right? But primarily, it's the frontline sales representatives that are there. If you see the role, right, this is about being obsessive for your customer's success. And for one to be able to do that, it is important that we are able to understand the challenges better, and at the same time, we are, at least at a high level, we know how we can solve for those, right? So this calls for an ability to be able to map the two towards our capabilities and what are the challenges. And in terms of working we work with both the internal and external ecosystem, right? So leverage and work very closely with the customer engineering and the PSO organizations. We also go beyond that, where we work with the external ecosystem as well, whether it is our partners, whether it is global system integrators, ISVs, consultants, right? Whoever it may be that we can work closely with to ensure that we're able to solve for our customers, right? So that's more in terms of how we really work the entire ecosystem and ensure that we are the collaborators, the strategists, the executionists for a given relationship.
That's great. And I hope the viewers are making notes of all these roles because I just made a note of all the 8 roles and their functionalities. And please feel free to give all your comments and questions in the comment section as well. So, a quick recap, we do have the customer engineer, partner engineer, industry principal architect, with very good tech intensity as well as the business savviness. And also, Pratish had a very interesting role, who's the complete customer obsessed org, which is the strategic cloud engineer, cloud consultant, and program management, along with technical account manager, who will take care of the long term relationship with the customer. And very interesting and a very simple org of Ruchir, but with a power punch. That is the field sales representative who, once again, takes care of the customer empathy as well as the relationship. So that's 8 different roles. That's amazing. So I definitely want to take this to the next round of rapid fire questions. So, Seema, once again, what are the suggested preparation path and certification path? Because as and when we hear about all these roles, I'm sure this is definitely kindling a fire in other people to actually aspire to be one. So what is the preparation path and the certification path, if there is any that you would do, that you would like to recommend to people?
Absolutely. So we from the Google Cloud Platform are really committed to enabling learning amongst the community of developers, the practitioners who really want to adopt Google Cloud Platform for building various solutions. So we've got very role-specific, tailored learning paths and certifications that pertain to those roles. So let me divide this into 4 buckets for ease of explaining how this works. If you're on the infrastructure modernization side and you're looking at perhaps networking or security, some of those aspects, there are specialized certifications called the Professional Cloud Network Engineer or the Professional Cloud Security Engineer, for example, that could take you down that path. The second is if you're interested in application modernization, you could be talking more to the developers, you could be looking at DevOps, for example. So there are specific certifications that cater to these. There's the professional cloud developer, the professional cloud DevOps engineer, which are really well suited to that path. And third, there is a whole suite of learning and training material available around data and analytics. That's where you have the professional cloud data engineer. And for people who want to take that one notch up and do AI and ML, there is the professional machine learning engineer. So that's really the gamut of different certifications that are available for you to pursue. On the industry side, if you're really interested in being a principal architect, there is something called the Professional Cloud Architect certification. So that gives you a good view of the different components in the GCP stack and how really you work with architecting technical solutions. You would have to club that with your relevant industry specific knowledge to be able to really go down the industry PA path. So that, in a nutshell, is what your certification journey would look like with Google Cloud.
That's great. And I think the professional cloud architect will definitely bring us a mile long with an inch deep of knowledge about various cloud GCP platform. And I guess that's a very good start for the techies to start with, and then move on to the specialization like the network, the data, analytics, machine learning, or security, and so on. That's great. Thank you so much for this, Seema. Pratish, now this is making me ask you another question. Do you expect the same level of tech intensity in your org? Because her team takes care of the customers and partners, wherein your team also works very closely with customers. So, do you also expect the same level of tech intensity? If not, what are the other skill sets that you would look for?
Absolutely. I think Seema covered that really, really well. No, I will add on top of what Seema said. A professional cloud architect is a great certification that will provide very, very deep and at the same time broad coverage of all the components of GCP. And specifically the roles like cloud consultant and cloud program managers, that's the best certification to have. That will provide end-to-end coverage of the technical aspect. And now second is we are going to specialization, and the teams are focusing on infrastructure, data, machine learning, security, etc., specifically in the strategic cloud engineering side. And each role need really, really deep specialization. That's where the data engineering certification, the machine learning certification, the network certification, and security engineer certifications are really, really useful for people preparing for the role. So both will go hand in hand. And on top of that, the customer handling skills, working with customer and being empathetic to the customer will be the base as well. I know that's the way can prepare for the certification. The same applicable for technical account managers as well. They also work very closely, and the roles are technical in nature. Cloud architect certification, I would recommend to start with them based on their interest level and the flavor and the specialization needed. They can go into either data and infra track, and in infra track they can still further go in security, network, etc. We also do have a collaboration engineer certification. The team members supporting the workspace product portfolio are recommended to have collaboration engineer certification. That will go handy as well.
That's great. That's great. I really like the tech intensity that you've brought for all these roles, and then only they can understand the customers and partners situation better. That's great. Yeah. So, Richard, I have the same question for you. But what is the level of tech intensity that you look for? Because your team has this field sales representatives who work with the remaining 7 roles of other orgs. So, what is the level of intensity that you look for, and what is the preparation path? And you can also suggest certification path if there is any.
Sure. So, Eva, I would say that today uh, the level of detailing that is required even for your first interaction is something that a sales professional should be comfortable with. All right. And I would actually encourage people to at least do the basic entry level certifications that Seema spoke of, right? Across the various functions, whether it is compute, it is networking, or any such things, just to have a basic understanding, right, of what that technology is and so on and so forth, right? So it's always an advantage if a salesperson can take the initiative and go through some of those. But in addition to that, right, I would definitely recommend people to look at the cloud digital leader training that we have. All right, this presents an overview of the opportunities and challenges that companies often face in their digital transformation journey. Right, so this is an opportunity for our salespeople to be to put themselves in the shoes of their customers and understand and feel what are the opportunities and what are the challenges for them, right? One will also get an understanding of what data is, how you can make decisions using that data. You will have an overview of what is structured, unstructured data, what's a database, data warehouses, data lakes, and so on. It also gives you an overview of the disadvantages of dated infrastructure, which a lot of companies may be using, right? It touches upon cost management. It talks about security, operational benefits, right? How can companies benefit by moving onto clouds, right, and work with cloud providers? It gives a flavor of all these areas as well, to better prepare an individual to have their interactions with the clients.
It makes sense. I definitely agree to your point. In the journey of operationalizing cloud, a lot of tech terms is something that we need to understand for cost optimization, performance monitoring, security. And I'm so glad that you brought that level of tech intensity to the sales team so that they can very well understand the problem of C-suites from the partner and customer side. That's really great. And I'm sure people are making notes and thinking through and planning their learning path. So I have the last question for all 3 of you. This is based on my opinion, but I would like to hear from you on what your thoughts are. Certification undoubtedly is very helpful so that it actually avoids some of the mistakes, puts us to structured learning with connected strategic topics. Certification alone cannot do anything for somebody. It can bring their resume to the right table, to the right set of hiring people. Beyond that, it is the individual's capability that the people definitely is aware of. So do you think certification can accelerate one's career and learning journey? Anybody can pick up. It's for all 3 of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I'm a firm believer of certifications, and certification personally helped me in addition to my base qualification from the college to get into the space I'm right now. So I strongly encourage and some of the curriculums and the structured way of getting into certification, the preparation for certification, etc., will definitely add a lot of value and weight to the real work. I definitely encourage everybody to do that.
Definitely, there's a lot of discipline involved in this journey of preparing a certification on how we control our anxiety, how well we are disciplined in our studies, etc. Anybody would like to add any other points?
Yeah, I'd just add that knowledge and learning never goes waste. Uh, even if you're not in a hardcore technical role, doing some of these trainings will always come handy. You never know when you will find a very challenging technical uh, customer sitting in front of you in a business role. So it always comes handy.
Definitely, definitely. Sometimes the customers know more than us, and it is really important as a cloud vendor that we understand their situation and then take the conversation further. Um,
Yeah, and I've been going first in every round, so I thought it was nice to let the other two talk first. It's really nice points that you brought up with regards to certification. My view here is that it helps not just the individual because it gives you tremendous learning that you can take anywhere, like Richard mentioned, but it's also a great opportunity to differentiate yourself from other candidates, other colleagues, even when you start work. It's a great way to build mind share with your colleagues and with your customers, right? Because there is somebody who's recognized you as being really good in the field. That's really what a certification is. So look at it as an opportunity to create your personal brand, other than for the learning value of it as well. That would be my 2 cents to anybody who's looking at pursuing a certification. It's never wasteful. It's just tremendous value. And finally, there is a whole lot of currency of your skill that's proven by a certification, right? Most of these do come with an expiry date, and the rate at which these technology innovations keep happening and changing. It's really important that you know when your certificates are valid, when they will expire, and actually take action to make sure that your skills are super current. So I think that's a huge one given the industry that we are in and the pace of innovation that we're looking at.
Thank you, Seema. Yeah, personal branding is a very strong point to end this discussion. So it was really insightful to listen to all of your precious opinions, and thank you so much for your time in spite of your very busy schedule. Once again, on behalf of the YouTube citizens and the viewers, I would like to thank you all. We have tons of takeaways. As I already said, I'm going to re-watch this video and relearn and meditate upon some of the points. We have weekend coming. Yeah, so that brought us to the closing note. So hello, viewers. I'm sure you didn't miss the first session, which is another amazing session by Rachel and few other leaders within Google. Shubhra, could you please display the link so that they can watch and read the benefits of the first session? I hope this session is useful to you as well. Please press the like button. This indicates to us that you encourage these kind of topics and you would like to hear more from us. We do have few more tech sessions planned for you in the upcoming weeks, and that's how we are celebrating the recent opening of the data center in the Delhi region in India. Hope this is enlightening with tons of takeaways. Thank you everyone for joining us, and you all have a nice rest of your day.